Hello everyone, I'm Fozzie, or Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How you doing today, Will?
I'm doing great, Cam. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. We have a lot to cover today, so now we're finally back in the regular swing of things. The last three episodes, we've been doing our New Year special, if you can believe it. It just ended last week. Um, that was a whole lot of fun. We had Mike on for those, and if you haven't watched them, I'd highly recommend you check them out because we covered Bruce Springsteen albums. We ranked the entire MCU. Um, so yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that. And yeah, I'm happy to be back here doing the regular podcast. Back to our regular schedule. Yeah, it's exciting. So yeah, I guess this is the first official 2024 regular episode of the podcast. So yeah, excited about that. But let's not waste any more time because we have a lot to cover. Recently, I just finished Echo, and if you watched the tier list video, you'll know that I didn't finish it. But I finished it. I don't even know. I think Monday. Monday I finished it. Yeah. And I had some thoughts which I shared with Will, and I know Will, you've shared your thoughts on Echo. I just want to start off by saying the first four episodes of Echo were really good. I I know you were disappointed with the lack of Daredevil in the show, Will, but I
Yeah.
actually thought that was kind of cool. How he just dropped in. It makes the world feel more lived in and not just cameos for the sake of cameos. So it makes the world where this whole story is taking place feel more realistic, feels more grounded. You know. Um, so yeah, I was definitely a fan of what they did there. I thought Wilson Fisk was pretty perfectly utilized, of course, until the last episode, which is where my problems start. So, like I said, the first four episodes, great action scenes, some of the best I've seen in a while from the MCU. Visual effects wise, everything looks top tier. I like what they're doing with the TVMA format. But Will, then we get to this finale episode, and it starts off strong. We got some cool character interactions. Then we get to the final act. What happened? There are so many things that just don't make sense. I just find ridiculous. Let's just start with Echo uh, giving everyone powers, including her grandmother. Maya just decided it. I would be fine if just her, because the show is about her. If she just got the powers herself and was able to take out all of Fisk's goons and Fisk himself, but no, she gives her elderly grandmother powers, and her grandmother throws a few punches, which, once again, here is just ridiculous, and it makes it takes all the real stakes because you have your elderly grandmother fighting armed mercenaries, and that just kind of breaks everything that we set in this grounded story. So we have that, and then she puts her hands on Fisk's head after Fisk just like runs at her for some reason. I don't know what he thought he was gonna do there. But no, yep, she puts her hands on his head, and then he sees where he was with his father, and it brings back some pretty tough memories for him, which I thought was kind of interesting. I'm intrigued by his backstory. I find that interesting. I like it shows how much of a twisted person he is. And then he leaves. Then he heads home. Yeah, he's done with that. He heads home, and he's in the car crying like a baby. Kingpin is crying in the car like a baby. Will, what in
I didn't think what's he I thought he was crying when she put her hand on his head and he experienced the traumatic memory, but was he doing that in the car too? I don't remember
he
that
was
part.
at the very least whimpering like a coward, which I
I
mean
mean, he just had to relive a traumatic event. Let's be honest.
But he's also Wilson Fisk. I mean,
Okay, but I feel like that's also a way to further flesh out and humanize this seemingly, horrible character. I like what I give Marvel credit for is I feel like they keep finding ways to humanize and make this character interesting and even at times relatable despite how evil he is.
I see what you're saying. I just think they could have shown it um, without showing Fisk crying like a little baby in his car. I probably would have done that differently. I was fine with him getting emotional while he was in that dreamlike state. Well, when Maya was in his head, I was fine with the crying there. Then it just got ridiculous, and I mentioned this briefly, but yeah, they just leave. They wave goodbye, and you can see Fisk guards come up to him and point guns, and then they just head home. Why didn't they shoot Maya? Wasn't that the plan? Wasn't that the plan to kill Maya? And
I thought the plan was to kill Maya's family. That's what I thought the plan was.
well, they could have done that too. And it seemed like they wanted to make her suffer, so they could have done something to her. They could have done something to her family, but they didn't. They just walk up there and point their guns, and I guess it actually fades away. So I thought that was just ridiculous and silly. I would my jaw dropped when all this took place. Like when what's his face? Biscuits pulled up in the monster truck, which okay. And all his armed mercenaries are just stay in the van the whole time. And it goes over the van, but they don't get hurt. The roof kind of crashes in a little bit, but they were fine. They could have just walked out and continued to carry on their plan. But no, I guess it was kind of uncomfortable in there, so they wouldn't want to go outside. It would make them look bad. What that doesn't make sense at all. I mean, and they just drove away. How the cars are broken? I thought it doesn't make sense. A lot of stupid things like that. And I don't even think having a sixth episode would fix that. I just think a better written finale would be the way to go. I don't know what went on in that finale. Aside from that, I thought it was a pretty good show, and the credit scene was intriguing, but that's about it. Uh, but yeah, Will, I'd like to hear your in-depth thoughts on Echo.
I'm going to quickly respond to something that you said before I give my fully in-depth thoughts. Like, I hear what you're saying about what Fisk's goons, did or actually, let me rephrase that, didn't do in the finale. I hear what you're saying there, but I think the reason Fisk left is this. And tell me what you think of this. That I think that however, confident in himself, in his abilities, Wilson Fisk is, I think he realized that the power that Maya had was a power that even he, Wilson Fisk, could not defeat. So I think because of the power that Maya had, which was a power that he did not have and he was not able to, go back and confront her with, I think he realized that her powers were so strong that even he, Wilson Fisk, could not defeat her in that moment. So that's why I think he stepped back for a second and decided to regroup instead of further going after her.
No, you definitely could use that logic, and that's definitely a possibility. But then you have to think about why why on earth would Maya let him leave? She hates him now.
Well,
He killed her father, and she's just gonna
yeah.
let him go. Okay, they'll see you next time, Uncle. I mean, what?
Well, I think that I think before the events of the finale, I think she didn't know the extent of what he had gone through as a kid with his father. His father was
Shh.
a terrible man, and there's an incredible backstory episode with Wilson Fisk and his father in Daredevil season 1. But I think she may realize that he has gone through a lot of trauma in his life, and let's be honest, she like she had a really long relationship with him for many years, and it's hard to just kill someone you've had a relationship with, for that
I,
many years,
I'm not
especially
even.
when you hear about what a traumatic background he went through. So I think she sees the trauma that he went through, and I think she is wondering if through work he'll, even he will be able to change if he's just willing to open up about the trauma that he went through in his life.
All right. So first off, she knew about the trauma before the finale, and she was still pretty mad at him. And did I just forget what I was gonna say? Oh no, I didn't. Okay, I don't know what happened there. I'm not even suggesting that she kill him or whatever, but we saw there were police on their way. She could have turned them into the police, or had biscuits turn them into the police, or her grandmother turned them into the police if she didn't want to be caught by them. I mean, she could have
Okay.
at least done that, but they didn't. They said goodbye, and I think some might view this as a nitpick, but when your show is 5 episodes and one of them is horrible, that kind of impacts your enjoyment of the show. And
Let me ask you this though: do you think the whole episode is horrible, or just that part of the episode is horrible?
um, it's not special. I think it's the worst one out of them. I don't think
Really? Okay.
there's just nothing too special happening. The first episode, they all have their perks. I mean, I think the first episode and maybe the third episode are probably the best. I mean, that fight scene in episode 1, that's that was and then Daredevil shows up and fights Maya, and then yeah, that was a great scene. So yeah, overall I enjoyed the show. But just thinking about that finale and how much of a letdown it kind of was, because, I mean, if it was just like episode 2 that was this bad, I'd probably be able to look past it more. But being that this is the big conclusion, it affects it a little more. So, for me, I'd probably give the show like a 7 out of 10
Okay.
as of now. My opinion always changes on Marvel products, so we'll see how it changes in the future and if it does. But as of now, I am pretty firm in saying that this is a 7 out of 10 show, and there was just a lot of stuff in that finale that really affected my opinion on the show. All right, but next here we have a topic that we actually held off on a little bit. One, because we had 3 episodes dedicated to our tier lists, and two, because you hadn't seen one of the movies yet, and now you have,
Yeah.
and that is the Holdovers
Yeah.
and Wonka.
Yeah. Which one do you want to start with?
We'll start with Holdovers.
Okay.
Yeah, I am so impressed with this
I know.
movie. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you look at the Oscar nominations, Will?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So we saw Paul Giamatti was nominated, as well as what's something Divine Randall. I
Oh
forget
yeah,
her
the
name.
main female character in the film.
Yes, I
And yeah, she was great, of
I don't,
course. Yeah.
I don't know how I forgot her name. I've been looking at those nominations all week, but whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. She was nominated, but I actually thought it was strange that Alexander Payne, the director, wasn't nominated.
That is
Uh,
strange. I'm upset about that. Like, what more did he need to do? Like, that's incredibly strange to
yeah,
me.
I think it's kind of odd, but I'm glad we got Paul and I forget. I'll look up her name in a sec. But yeah, I'm glad that those two got nominated. Their performances were great. Um, but even if Alexander Payne was nominated, he we all know who's getting Best Director. That'd go to Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, actually, I want to spend a second talking about the Oscars real quick
Sure,
because,
let's do it.
yeah, why not? And we're
We got
gonna,
some we got some surprising snubs here.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I plan on doing a more in depth Oscar slash best movies of 2023 podcast episode that's solely dedicated to that. So I'm not gonna go too in depth on the Oscars. Uh, but I mean, we'll go through it just a little bit. So I was actually incredibly happy to see that Wes Anderson received a nomination in the short film category for The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. I'm glad he is he's getting nominated. He's getting some credit here. I mean, everyone who listens to the podcast, just you guys know how much I love Wes, right? Um, so yeah, I'm happy about that. Kind of not surprised Asteroid City didn't get anything. I thought it would get something for set design at least, but no, nothing there. Uh, we got Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer for Best Actor in a Leading Role. He's going to win. I mean, his performance was stunning in Oppenheimer. There's just I don't see anyone else that could take that. As much as I'd like to see Paul Giamatti win, I don't. I just don't think it's gonna happen. Seeing Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon and a supporting actor is cool. I mean, I also think it was odd that Leonardo DiCaprio was not nominated.
Well, yeah, I mean, I look at it from the standpoint of if you're gonna nominate Robert De Niro, like why would you not
That's true.
nominate
Along with
Leonardo DiCaprio as well? So if both De Niro and DiCaprio didn't get nominated, I might be like, okay, maybe they wanted to like avoid nominating the white actors from the film and focus on the indigenous actors instead. But like because De Niro was nominated, but Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't, like it's just kind of
yeah,
I
it's
just
odd.
I feel like if you're gonna nominate one of those two, you have to nominate both. So I thought that was just strange.
Yeah, and I actually thought DiCaprio's performance was. I thought he was better than De Niro. Not saying De Niro was bad or anything.
I thought Robert De Niro was phenomenal.
No, yeah, he
film.
was fantastic. But I just think DiCaprio had a lot more to do,
That's
and
true.
he had a lot harder things to do.
But I don't think one is more deserving of the award than the other, though.
Yeah, I guess. Emma Stone getting a nomination in an actress in a leading role. Still have to watch Poor Things. That's definitely on the watch list for me. Surprise here for me was that Margot Robbie, nowhere to be found. Also, Greta Gerwig, nowhere to be found. So yeah, kind of surprising there.
Yeah, it's just surprising to me because Barbie was like such a popular and critically acclaimed movie in 2023 and a Best Picture nominee. So just for it to be a Best Picture nominee and to have both the lead actor and the director snubbed, like when it was nominated for Best Picture, I really want to get inside the voters' heads with that.
Yeah, I found that strange. But I was also obviously, you guys know how much I love this performance, and I actually predicted it being fantastic before watching the movie. But Lily Gladstone was nominated.
Stunning. Stunning, I thought.
Fantastic. What award? Divine Joy Randolph. Yes, that's her name.
Totally deserving.
Holdovers. Yes,
totally deserving.
Yes, but one actress I thought wasn't deserving of their nomination for actress in a supporting role was America Ferrera for Barbie. She didn't really blow me away or anything. She had that one speech which I thought was really powerful, but aside from that, she didn't do that much. I mean, she gave a good performance, but that speech was about it for her. I'm fine with her being nominated, but I don't see her winning. Animated feature film. If The Boy and the Heron wins, I mean, come on.
Have
It.
you seen that
I
movie?
haven't, and before the Oscars, I'd like to check it out because that is the only other movie I see competing with Spider Verse. I was stunned that it won the Golden Globe, and that's usually a kind of precursor to the Oscars. But we'll see. And I'd like to watch The Boy and the Heron before giving my full on statement on this. But
Yeah, I mean, to give
I
The
found it
Boy
odd.
and the Heron its credit, it is certified fresh at 97%
Yeah,
on Rotten Tomatoes. So obviously it's doing something right.
yeah. But I was mostly happy with this year's Oscar nominations. I love the Oscars, and please, please let Ryan Gosling perform I'm Just Ken.
Yeah,
Please.
that would be
I
great.
I am the
That would be
Academy.
great.
If the Academy is watching this podcast, me, Cam
Yeah.
Braitz, host of the Everything podcast, is begging you to have Ryan Gosling perform I'm Just Ken. But yeah, we get sidetracked there for a little bit. But let's hop back on the Holdovers train here.
Yeah,
What a movie! I mean,
I
the
know, right?
the direction from Alexander Payne, stunning. It looks like a movie produced in the 70s. The cinematography is beautiful. The scenery, the whole overall aesthetic of the movie is wonderful, and you can see there are little like scratches in the camera. It makes it feel real. It makes it feel like it's shot on film. I think it was actually shot on film, but you feel like it was a movie produced in the time it was released. I was just so happy with this movie. I mean, yeah, I was a huge fan of the Holdovers. Will, what were your thoughts on the Holdovers? Because I don't actually I haven't shared my thoughts, but I thought it was fantastic. But you just saw it pretty recently, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, about a month ago,
yeah,
I saw it. I didn't see it in the theater, but what I thought was great about the movie is I felt I didn't need to see it in the theater because my experience, I believe, was just as great watching it not in the theater as I expected would have been if I did see it in the theater. But to what you were saying about it looking like a movie that, you would think would be released back in the day, my dad actually told me that they shot that they shot the movie with cameras from
yeah.
that
I figured.
time period, and that's why it looks like it was a film from back in the day. In terms of the film itself, just a beautiful, heartwarming movie. It's practically flawless to me. Like
Yeah,
I don't know if there's one thing that I could nitpick up about it. I'm gonna give my dad, Mike, our most frequent guest here on the Everything Podcast, some credit because I remember one time we were watching a movie and I said to Mike, that I thought I was like, well, it was predictable to me that the two lead characters in this film would have a better relationship at the end of the movie compared to the start of the movie. But my dad said to me, yes, that's predictable, but it's how they get there that matters. Translating that statement to the Holdovers, the Paul Giamatti character and the lead young, or I would say young adult character in the film, it was very predictable to me that those two characters would have a better relationship at the end of the movie than at the beginning of it. But to use Mike's phrase, how they got there was fantastic. And it was a joy to watch their relationship mature, even though I knew it would be in a better place at the end. So a beautiful, practically flawless movie. I thought, and I just want to end by saying this. Cam, I'm really I I just don't love the state of movies that we're in right now. 2023 gave me some hope with how popular movies like Barbie and Oppenheimer were, but I'm just really disappointed and just I think the state of movies is kind of sad right now. And let's take a look at back in the day. Back in the day, would you have big action movies? Of course you would. There were all of these, like big action blockbuster movies back in the day, like let's say the Indiana Jones movies or the Terminator movies or Jaws or or Jurassic Park or Star Wars. Like there were big blockbuster action movies like that back in the day, but there were also Martin Scorsese movies and Robert De Niro movies and dramas and films like that. Back in the day, there was a blend of the types of movies that were released in theaters. And now just all of the movies that are released in theaters just seem so similar to me. And there's just way too much to me in the action category out there right now. And I just wish we could get films like The Holdovers more nowadays. But what I want to say, what I found so refreshing about the holdovers is, Cam, to be honest with you, in the state of movies that we're in right now, I wouldn't have been surprised if The Holdovers was an independent film. Like that is where I believe we are at with movies now. If The Holdovers was an independent film, I wouldn't have been surprised at all. To have a movie like that feels like it was from back in the day be released at be a major release and not an independent film in 2023. I can't tell you how refreshing that felt to me and how excited I was about that, because I think the state of movies is very sad right now. And the holdovers, and also a movie like Air that came out earlier in 2023, two of my favorite movies of 2023. Having movies like that come out and be major releases in 2023 gives me some hope that maybe we can just maybe we can slightly start to move forward to getting back to how cinema was back in the day. So it was just so refreshing to see a movie like that be a major release in 2023, I thought.
All right, I want to briefly go through this. I completely agree with everything you said about the holdovers, but I'd like to go through what you said about cinema today. And I used to have that same exact opinion about both movies and music. I felt the same way. But I feel like if you look relatively hard enough, you will be able to find a good batch of movies that came out this year that are really good and wouldn't fall into your cheap action movie category. And sure, there are movies like that, and I've seen my fair share of them, and I appreciate them for what they are, but I get that it's definitely not what we want as fans of cinema. But there are movies out there that are original. Just last week I watched The Iron Claw. I mean, that one of the most beautiful movies I've seen in a while, you know? I feel like you mentioned Barbie and Oppenheimer, obviously, but movies like Talk to Me, They Clone Tyrone, which was a Netflix original release this year, starring John Boyega of Star Wars fame. It was fantastic, and no one watched it. It wouldn't fall into your typical action category. It was a weird sci-fi thriller mystery movie that you just never see coming. And the movie we're about to talk about next, Wonka, granted it's based off of an IP, but what they did with the character was original,
Hmm.
and I just feel like there are a lot of movies out there like The Killer, Knock at the Cabin, all original movies. I actually didn't think Knock at the Cabin was great, but you have to admit that they're original movies
Sure.
with that are really good, and they're not just action slop that's just put out to make money. So when you say how great cinema was back then, yeah, it was. It was fantastic. But we also have to realize that the movies it was a while ago, so the bad movies we don't know about. So we're only focusing on the good. So there definitely were the Meg to the trenches of the 1970s, um, which is a movie that came out that last year that was horrible. But I'm getting off track. Um, so yeah, I think the reason people say this a lot is because they only hear the good stuff, and there was definitely a lot of, frankly, crappy movies released then too. And there are a lot of crappy movies released now, but there are still a bunch of great ones. Like I said, the Iron Claw, Oppenheimer, Barbie, They Clone Tyrone, Talk to Me. I mean, all original movies that are creative, and yeah, you had movies like that in the 70s, 80s, 90s too. Movies from that period of time too. And we'll look on at these from like 20 years from now, and we'll forget about movies like Meg 2 The Trench, and we'll focus on the good ones. So I feel like that's a statement people say a lot, but I just disagree. I think there is a lot of good movies out there today, and just mostly because of advertising and box office numbers, people just think, yeah, it's a bunch of Marvel movies that are released today, a bunch of action movies that are released today. But I just feel like that's not the case. Sorry I went on that long tangent, but
No worries.
yeah, that's my opinion on that subject. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think the or actually I think what you're saying is actually absolutely correct. It's just what I'm sad about is I believe back in the day, those types of movies were making a lot more money
that's
at the theaters than they are right now. And what
okay.
I'm sad
Yes.
about right now is that I believe audiences are spending money on movies that are not as deserving to have their money spent on than others. And what I'm sad about is I feel like the movies that are making the most money nowadays aren't the ones that I would consider the most deserving of making that much money. So that's what I'm sad about. Like if I like when a movie like Air or The Holdovers comes out nowadays, I'm not saying the quality isn't great. I just I just won't expect it to do that well at the theater anymore, and that's what I'm sad about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is moments like these where thank goodness we have A24 to make these original movies that they keep making. They won't make a movie like, I don't know. They won't make a ridiculous action movie there. That's why A24 is such a good movie studio. So thank goodness we have them to provide some originality and provide us with original content that we don't see much, and will feel like an independent film. But yeah, now I think it's time to talk about Wonka. Alrighty, so I thought Wonka was a fantastic movie. I thought all the songs were great. I thought Timothy Chalamet's performance was fantastic. Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa was fantastic. I thought it was hilarious. Yeah, overall, a really solid movie. A lot of fun. Yeah, I had a blast with this one. What were your thoughts on Wonka, Will?
Yeah, surprisingly, for me, another one of my favorite movies of 2023. And I'll just be honest, I don't go to see movies like this, but I was super into the Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory world when I was um, growing up. I remember being super into the book. I remember seeing the Gene Wilder film. I felt like I saw that play so many times, whether it was at my school or at some place around town here where I live. So I remember how into that world I was growing up. So I don't even go to see movies like this, but I remembered how into that world I was as a kid, and the movie was getting really good reviews. So I thought, okay, I'll go, and it's got a great cast. So I'll go ahead and see how this is. See if I enjoy it. And I loved this movie, Cam. It was everything that I could have asked for out of a Willy Wonka prequel film. They honored the source material so well. I thought uh some great new songs. It was just a delight for me to watch. Just a magical movie experience in my opinion. And it had been since my childhood. It had been since I was so young that I had, entered into that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka world. And I was just reminded, Cam, of how great I think that world is. I am so grateful that that world exists. To me, that world that's been created is just a place to go and escape to just a magical place. Like that is what the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka world, I think, provides. And I was reminded of how great that world was with the Wonka movie.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Definitely, I felt like an 8 out of 10. Performances all around were fantastic. Super funny. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I haven't seen Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, just Willy Wonka. Do you recommend Charlie in the Chocolate Factory?
Uh, which one? Because I know there's the Gene Wilder one and the Johnny Depp one. I'm not sure. I think one's called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and one's called Charlie and the
The
Chocolate
Johnny
Factory. But
the Johnny Depp one is Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
I haven't seen the Johnny Depp one.
Okay.
But I do remember really enjoying the Gene Wilder
All
one.
right. Yeah, I'm a fan of it as well. Um, but yeah, next here I wanted to go over something I have just kind of begun uh, testing out and watching, and I think everyone's going to be intrigued. So, we don't usually talk a lot of DC on the podcast, mainly because Will isn't a huge fan of it, doesn't really watch it that much. I haven't watched the more recent movies like Shazam and Aquaman or Blue Beetle, because garbage, it's getting rebooted anyway, it doesn't matter. Um, but I've heard good things for a while about the DC animated movies. So I'm gonna break down the whole thing here. So what I'm watching right now is the DC animated movie universe, which I think I don't even know how many movies it has, but it has a few, and it's like the MCU. It starts. I'll read through. It starts with Justice League Flashpoint Paradox, which I've seen. Fantastic. I thought it was really good. Um, yeah, it was just such a cool story. Then it goes on to Justice League War, Son of Batman, Justice League Throne of Atlantis, Batman vs. Robin, which I'm intrigued to see, Batman Bad Blood, Justice League versus the Teen Titans, Justice League Dark, Teen Titans The Judas Contract, Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, The Death of Superman, Constantine City of Demons, Reign of Superman, Batman Hush, Wonder Woman Bloodlines, Justice League Dark, Apocalypse War, and Constantine House of Mystery. And Constantine House of Mystery is a short film. It takes place before but Justice League Dark Apocalypse War is the end game to this entire series. So, well, not series, this movie franchise, I guess. So yeah, and it ended with that, and I don't even know what's gonna happen then. So yeah, I'm excited to watch that, which is just one of the universes. And then we have the Tomorrowverse, which is a separate universe from the DC animated movie universe, which is still going on. And it started with Superman, Man of Tomorrow, Justice Society, World War II, Batman, The Long Halloween, Green Lantern, Beware My Power, which is a horrible name, Legion of Superheroes, another horrible name, Justice League Warworld, and Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is going to be a trilogy, and part one is out right now. I haven't heard as great of things about the Tomorrowverse, but I'll definitely watch it after the DC animated movie universe. And then there are a lot of standalone ones that I'm going to watch. So yeah, definitely a lot of movies in the DC animated movie series, all different universes. So yeah, I'm super excited to start this journey through all these movies, and so far they've been pretty good.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed them. So yeah, anyone who's maybe not a huge fan of the DCEU and wants to watch some good DC content, I'd recommend the animated movies because they're basically just the comics but animated. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because I am super excited to start my journey through that. But finally, here on the Everything Podcast, we have to talk about Ghostbusters. New trailer was just released. It, come on, Will. It looks
I know.
so good. It feels like the original Ghostbusters. Even the design of the ghosts that we saw, it just looks like a throwback. It's back to New York, an inventive villain that we haven't seen yet. With modern visual effects, I can't wait. It's gonna be so much fun. I am so excited for this movie. The trailer looks great. So happy to see all the OG Ghostbusters back in business as what looks like to be leading characters. Paul Rudd, Finn Wolfhard looking fantastic. Yeah, so excited for this movie. Will, yeah, can't wait to watch it in March.
Yeah, the great Bill Murray is back, Cam. The great Bill Murray with just the
Yes.
classic Bill Murray look, I think, in this photo. Gotta love Bill. I'm so excited that he's back. I would not have expected him to be back. I know
Same.
Bill was very against a Ghostbusters 3, but I did read that I believe he has worked with this director before. And look, I want to credit the people behind these most recent two Ghostbusters movies, because from everything I've read, Mr. Bill Murray was very adamant that he was not returning for a Ghostbusters 3. And yet they dug him out. They brought him out of the attic. So just a major credit to them for getting Bill Murray to even return
Yeah.
to not just one but two Ghostbusters movies. A pretty remarkable accomplishment, I think, on their part. And if I was watching the two Ghostbusters Afterlife trailers, the teaser trailer and then the official trailer, if I was watching them and I had seen no other Ghostbusters movies and like I didn't know what the Ghostbusters world was, I could see myself watching those two trailers and being like, oh, a city gets frozen to ice and then they have to save it, blah 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 blah, blah. So formulaic, blah, 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 blah. Like if I had not had any previous history and relationship with the Ghostbusters franchise, I could see myself watching those trailers and being utterly bored by them. However, I do have a relationship with the Ghostbusters franchise and their films that have come before this. So for that reason, I thought the trailers were fantastic, and I thought they were everything that I could ask for out of Ghostbusters trailers. And look, ultimately, when I come to the Ghostbusters franchise too, is to have fun. What I
Yeah.
appreciated about Ghostbusters Afterlife is I thought it had some more emotional moments in it, which I was surprised to see in a Ghostbusters film. So I really credit Ghostbusters Afterlife for that. But ultimately, you come to a Ghostbusters movie to have fun, That's exactly what it looks like Frozen Empire is going to deliver to us. So I'm super excited about that. The, the only I'm I'm not going to call it a concern, just more of a question. The amount of characters that they have in this
Yeah.
film is a little alarming to me. You've got the OG cast and you've got the new cast. So how they're gonna bring everybody into one movie and have seemingly everybody in prominent roles and give everybody enough screen time. I mean, I I guess I'm a little worried, but I'm more just kind of curious how they're gonna make sure that all of these characters can have enough time on screen and have, their own solo arcs in a story with so many characters in them. So I'm curious how they're gonna work that out. I feel like if there's one thing I could see being the film's demise, it would be having too many characters in it. But the the whole thing of the OG Ghostbusters and the new Ghostbusters back in New York teaming up, like that's pretty epic. So I'm super excited about that. And also, the final thing I'll say is I'm very impressed with just what Ghostbusters Afterlife and from everything we've seen, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, I'm so impressed with how those two movies have just revived the franchise. Because for me, when I look at the treatment, like just looking at some of the female characters in the Ghostbusters franchise, when I look at the treatment of, for instance, um, Sigourney Weaver's character in the original Ghostbusters films compared to the writing of the female characters in these new Ghostbusters films, I just see such a dramatic improvement. So, what I love about Ghostbusters Afterlife and what it seems like we're going to get with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, what I love is that, like, not that the original Ghostbusters isn't a classic film, but I think that the writing and the dialogue and the characters in these new Ghostbusters films are on a level that even the original couldn't reach. So I'm very happy with the spot that the Ghostbusters franchise is in right now.
Yeah, same here. Super excited for this movie. When it gets closer to the release date, we'll probably go more in depth on other Ghostbusters movies. Super excited for that. We're all big fans of it here on the Everything Podcast. And yeah, that about wraps up this episode of the podcast. Next week, actually, we'll be going deep onto the Super Bowl because it's just closer to it actually happening. But as of now, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the Everything Podcast. Will, thank you for joining me as always. This was a great episode. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.